Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line, presented by Offside News. My name's Emma, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Marcie.
Hello.
And we're not frozen this time. Okay, so that's our second take on the intro, because the first time my computer, totally crapped out, and I had to restart my whole computer and everything, and it was a pain, and it wasn't very good. My whole, Teams application froze, and then my whole computer froze, and so I had to restart my whole computer. But we're back. You know what? I think it was kind of fitting that we had some technical issues with this episode because yesterday, and we didn't even tweet about it, but yesterday was the 1 year birthday, the first birthday of the show. The show is officially a year old.
Oh, they grew up so fast.
Isn't that crazy?
That's mad. What do you
We've been doing the show. We've been doing this show for a year, for 365 days. It's been a blast. It's been so much fun. 85 episodes, not including the bonus ones that we throw in for you guys. So probably somewhere closer to 90 if we included those. But yeah. It's really exciting. It's really exciting. It's really fun. We're so happy.
Yeah, it's just
happy 1 year.
Happy 1 year anniversary.
This time last year we were talking about the Leafs getting back from Sweden after a couple of dominant games, but now we're going to be talking about some other dominant games from the Leafs as well. Game singular, because there was only one game this week from the Leafs. But yeah, happy birthday to us. Happy birthday From the Fourth Line. It's a year. That's so exciting. That's so much fun. Thank you to everyone who's ever listened, liked, followed, or supported the show in any way, shape, or form. It really means a whole lot. So last episode was cursed. You should. So last episode was cursed. Episode was cursed.
So cursed.
It turns out that multiple players that we mentioned on Monday's episode are hurt. Anyone we discussed in length is hurt.
Yeah.
Except for Bobby McMahon, so prayers to Bobby McMahon.
Oh, good luck.
I hope he's he's bought into John Tavares' amulet or whatever he believes he needs to protect himself. I don't know if he's into saging things. Maybe we just need to sage that whole episode.
He seems like the sort of guy that would be.
Yeah, maybe he'd be into saging. I don't know, but
he needs to wrap himself in bubble wrap, lock the doors, turn out the lights, and
stay safe. Stay safe. So David, so on Tuesday morning, it was while I was still in bed, it was at 8:30 in the morning. I was still in bed on Tuesday. It was announced that David Kampf was going to be placed on IR due to a lower body injury, and that Fraser Minton would be called up, which we discussed in length about potentially him being a solution at center for the Leafs. Did not mean it in this way, but we will talk about Fraser later. And then on Wednesday, there was a whole bunch of stuff that went down on Tuesday. Tuesday was a crazy news day for the NHL. League-wide, there was so much stuff. It was every 15, 20 minutes, they were news story, news, here's some more news. I was sending in the tweets from Leaf beat reporters from media availabilities every 5 seconds. I was look at this one, look at this one. I will talk about this in a little bit. Also as well, on Wednesday, it was because we're talking about people who were injured. We talked at length about Max Domi in Monday's episode. He was also placed on IR for a lower body injury, and Nikita Grabenkin was called up. And I love this kid. We'll talk more about it when we talk about the game, but love Nikita Grabenkin. He had a great game. It would also be his NHL debut. We love debuts on the show. But yeah, so Max Domi, but more back into and then also to round out who we've cursed. Alex Ovechkin is week to week with a lower body, specifically lower leg injury that he suffered on Monday night versus Utah after a collision with Jack McBain in and around the neutral zone. It was a very weird thing. He needed help off the ice. He
Mm.
immediately left the game, and he's week to week with a lower leg injury, which sucks.
Yeah.
Just after we were like, I was
We
like,
promise we're not
what?
responsible.
I promise after I made so many Wayne Gretzky I Tanya jokes last episode, you can check the tapes. I actually have alibis for this one. I made a
Sorry.
joke. I was like, Liz, you're gonna have to give me an alibi. Liz, Malcolm, my editor, one of our editors at Offside, but also also is from the Ottawa area. It's like, Liz, you got to give me an alibi. But I had an alibi. I was in a night class, and then I went to a friend's house and ate cinnamon buns. It was great. But yeah, uh, Marcie's dying because she may have choked on something, or so I'm just gonna continue talking to myself. She coughs on mute. But yeah,
Sorry,
I was gonna say,
I
I was like, I have an alibi for Monday night.
yeah, I inhaled my matcha.
This is why you don't drink things during the show,
Where's my matcha?
which is very hypocritical of myself because the past like 3 shows.
Sorry, little miss. Like, soda.
I don't have any because I drank my last one last night while I was working on my paper, so I don't have any left. I have to go to the grocery store and buy another box.
Oh.
As you drink more of your matcha. No, I'm going to like a happy hour later, so I'm gonna get some wine. It's gonna be nice. Yeah.
Ooh.
Hopefully they have a TV on so I can watch the Suns game.
Mm.
Because that's a big one for them. But yeah, Ovechkin. I promise I didn't. I have an alibi. I was in a night class, and then I went to a friend's house right away after. I was there until way past like almost midnight, and then I walked home and I went to bed.
Yeah, my alibi is I'm halfway across the world, and I
So
have.
am I. So am I. Like I'm halfway across the continent. Like I'm far away from Utah.
Mm.
But
I'm arguably further away, so if one of us was guilty.
like that John Mulaney bit, who killed Princess Diana? Well, considering I was 12 and in Wisconsin.
Oh dear.
But yeah, to loop back into that Tuesday, not Tuesday morning. It was like all before like 2:30 my time. All this news had happened, but we can talk about kind of the elephant in the room, or I guess the elephant in Germany. Austin Matthews went or is on. I've had contradicting accounts that he has already gone to Germany or that he is currently in Germany. Uh, but it is all to visit a doctor to check in with his upper body injury.
Yeah.
That it's
I
a
mean,
doctor
he
he's
had some
visited
sort of
in the
sick or aisle.
past. Look, if Austin Matthews comes back with a buzz cut, we know what happened.
Mm. Just saying. And you know, things we've spoken about on the show have come true, so.
Yeah. Um, Austin Matthews. Didn't we joke about Austin Matthews' hair transplant last episode? And I was like and I mentioned
I think
the
so.
Harry Styles buzz cut because I remember I was like pulling up
Yes!
my sister's text messages. And I was like, look,
Yeah.
we had like multiple conversations about the Harry Styles buzz cut and he ended up getting a hair transplant. If Austin Matthews comes back with a buzz cut, we know what it was. He
Mm.
got a hair transplant. But
Oh,
yeah,
so
so
funny.
Austin Matthews to Germany to visit a doctor that he's visited with the past. The only thing that like kind of confused me about it was like it was either Treliving or it was Brube because they both spoke to the media, which Brube speaking at the like GM speaking at like this time of year at the quarter season mark is not unusual. It's actually common practice across the league, but we did get to hear from Treliving, but I don't have the quote in front of them, but one of them did say it was like more of a general checkup. I was like, why is he flying to Germany for a checkup? Is the family doctor situation in Ontario that bad that Austin Matthews has to fly to Germany for a general checkup.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, because we still like don't know what he hurt or anything, which
No.
like I don't think we're ever gonna find out. I
Yeah.
like not even when he comes back do I think we're gonna learn, unless he like is like fine with telling us, but it's whatever. It's lower body. We know it. Apparently, it's not his wrist. Could be shoulder. Some people were saying. I know today we got more updates on him where it was he maybe could skate this weekend, hopefully, fingers crossed, and then potentially could be good to go in Florida next week. Who knows? I certainly don't, but um, I mean, Leafs are doing just fine without him. They're 6-1,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy. And they're out 6 forwards. Well, we'll see. Could be more. And we'll get into that. Uh, but yeah, so I guess we'll talk about the game then, and we'll get into more stuff as we talk through this Leafs game, where it's Leafs in Vegas, in Toronto. Joseph Wool gets the start. Aiden Hill also gets the start for Vegas, meaning Samsonov does not quite yet get his first game against Toronto since leaving the team. Potentially that'll be for the second matchup against between these two teams later on in the season when the Leafs are on the road. But Minton, Ben, and Benoit are in the lineup. Gurbankin is also in the lineup, making his NHL debut, which is exciting. I loved him in preseason. He was so
Mm.
I think electric maybe is like the word to
But
use there.
yeah.
Like he was just so energetic and like would just energize like any line that he was on. And I loved him in preseason. He was so fun to watch. I got to see him in Ottawa um during preseason. I got to see him play in that game that I was at, and it was so noticeable when he was on the ice as well, because I think like maybe it was just the line that he was on at the like in preseason, but like they would move faster. You know, you could see the difference in speed when he was on the ice to maybe push that line or just to be a little bit faster out there. And he just, is so energetic, and with this and like is like yeah, he was good in this game too, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, it was also Pride Night for the Leafs. Which is a night, a specialty night that's always near and dear to our hearts, for sure. And I always there's always discussion and talks, whenever at least every time among the fan base, whenever a team does have their Pride Night. I think they're so important. You can say whatever you would like, but I do think that Pride Night is so important in order to connect with the community that you are located in. Like, I think people realize that, hey, just because you not yourself aren't represented or recognized, or like you don't it doesn't mean that someone else in the fan base, someone else who was also a fan of the same team that you were on, or just lives in the same city that you do, um doesn't see themselves and would like that representation or like that acknowledgement that they exist, or that it is important to cherish the LGBTQ community and within their fan base or within their community that they exist in. I think that's maybe the best way I could have put that. Some players did have tape during warmups. Not everyone. Leafs also stopped doing the decals on the back of their helmets that we saw last year. Was it last year? Did we also get decals last year? I can't remember.
Yes.
My memory is so
Yeah. They
bad.
all kind of blur together.
Um, but yeah, there was quite a bit. There was a fair amount of pride tape out there on some player sticks. I know Tavares, Riley, Stolart's,
Mm.
OEL, Lawrence. Um, anyway, sorry. Back to where I was in my list of listing off players. I'm going off the top of my head. I don't have everyone written down. Oh, I know Mitch had it. He had like his little stripe around his grip. Mitch had
Mm.
it. Marner, Tanev had it as well. and I'm trying to see if there's anyone that I'm forgetting. Those are just the guys that I remember off the top of my head. I should have written them down. I just
Mm.
was trying to get through these notes. These notes are kind of last minute for me, but I've had a busy week. But yeah, puck drop. Um, puck drop, exciting, good. I don't know the puck drop, but in the first period, off of a gorgeous, gorgeous feed from William Nylander,
Oh
Fraser
my God.
Minton gets his first NHL goal in his fifth game in the NHL. He played four last year at the start of the season, if we remember correctly. But he gets his first NHL goal, and I was cheesing so hard. I
Oh
was
my God.
smiling so hard.
I kind
Um,
of, when you're like lying down, because I was like sat in bed watching it, you know how like you do the jump up, but the equivalent of that when you're lying down, where I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was sat and I was like, oh
I was in class watching this game, so like
my God.
I had my phone like propped up like on my laptop in class, and we were
Oh,
like it was it was a lecture. I was sitting in a lecture about like the NHL, like not the NHL, that wrong class. About social media and like live tweeting like in the courtroom from the courtroom about like court proceedings and stuff like that. So it was like a very
wow.
like serious topic. And I
Yeah.
was like trying not to like smile, like I was like ducking a little bit so I'm not seeing like absolutely cheesing because this kid, Mitch kid, he's a year younger than us, but kid, this
The
kid
boy.
the boy. He was smiling so hard too, like as soon as he scored as well.
Oh my God. I just
Um,
so
yeah.
happy.
I just like, he was cheesing so hard. Um, and just it was such a good pass from Nylander too, but yeah, I
Mm.
just and also as well, like everyone was so happy for him too. You could see it as well, like in the cellies and everything. Everyone was smiling, the whole bench was smiling, the fist bumps and everything. And then you saw Nyes grab the puck too for him, which is just like
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
if we had video for the show, we could put up like that picture. I'm putting my hand up, but like I have it. But like that picture from their rookie dinner last year of Tavares, Nyes, and
Yeah.
Mintz.
Oh, I wish
But
he was
yeah,
so happy.
he was so happy. Um, yeah, so that was kind of like the first period though. Like that was pretty much it for the first.
Mm.
Minton first NHL goal. It was not that it was a nothing period. Both teams were pretty competitive. Leafs maybe started a little bit more defensively than probably they would have
Mm.
liked, even though they did open the scoring of this game. If you watch, especially in the first about 10 minutes, they were a little bit more, not on the back foot, just more of they never really had the chance to um like get off of being playing defensively. If that makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
it just felt like they were constantly trapped in their own zone. I guess maybe back foot is the best way, but like it wasn't like them playing defensively like it was like bad, like they were playing badly. No, they just never had an opportunity to tilt the ice back. I think it's probably that's the metaphor I'm looking for is tilting the ice in their favor.
Yeah.
Is that the is that the NHL related, like the hockey related metaphor that I can use? There's so many of them, but yeah. So in the second period, early on in the second period, I think I have to walk through this whole lead up is Grabenkin, and it's not called for boarding. I gotta make sure I'm getting this correctly, but I don't believe it was called for boarding.
Mm.
Um, I just have to Yeah, hold on. Hold on. I gotta pull up the box score. Um, oh, I don't. It opened an ad now. This is so much smoother. I'm not. Yeah, no, okay, it wasn't. All right. So it wasn't called a penalty, even though it was on Shea Theodore, and it wasn't called a penalty, even though Shea Theodore was bleeding. But Karenga just like pushed him from behind into the boards,
Mm.
or into the glass, which isn't called um where was I? Oh yeah. So and then maybe that led into this hit, but like it just, you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like it was retribution, if that
Mm,
makes sense, right? Like
yeah.
I'm leading up to Matthew Nyes carrying the puck through the neutral zone, and Zach Whitecloud just absolutely laying a hit on him. Um, where it was one of those hits where like that's not even where the focus, like even if you watched, it wasn't centered in the frame of
No.
the broadcast, right? Like they even weren't even like in close in on that camera angle, like in close in on it. It was like that big wide full ice camera angle that you see all the
Mm,
time, and just absolutely lays him out as Nyes is traveling through the neutral zone, and Nyes hits his head off the ice, and immediately everyone comes in, right? Like you had
yeah.
Benoit going, Benoit was on the ice. Yeah. Um, like everyone was getting in on it. Um, but yeah, this is about halfway through, 8 minutes into the second. I'm just like, I'm looking at the penalty breakdown now because we're going to talk about that in a little bit, and I wanted to have it up. But yeah, my opinion on it is okay. So if it's a good hit by the rules, then the rules need to change. But
Mm,
because I'm in the position that it was a bad hit, right?
yeah.
And if you're going to say, okay, but here, why following the rules, it was a good hit, the rules laid out like in the rule book by the NHL, then I would then sit here and argue, okay, well then if it's a bad, like if the rule, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's like the the rules say one thing and then the result was something completely different.
yeah. Like if you're like, okay, well, in accordance to the rules, this is a clean hit. Well, then the rules need to change so that it's not a
Mm,
clean hit because it didn't look like a clean hit, if that makes
no.
sense, right? And so what I will say, and I'll get right out ahead in front of it because it was like one of the biggest things that I saw in defense of this hit being clean was that Matthew Nyes had his head down and thus putting himself in a vulnerable position. Matthew Nyes did not have his head down. It wasn't in the same way as the Darnell Nurse hit that we saw literally last game, like last Leafs game. It was Leafs,
Mm,
like where Darnell Nurse, and I said this of Darnell Nurse as well. I said he had his head down, but also like a guy should be able to come up around the net like that and not have his brains blown out.
yeah.
Um, but Nyes didn't have his head down. Okay, because people are like, oh, look at here, he has his head down, and it's from before the hit, and it is him. If you want, like it again, this is my qualm with like people just posting screenshots and not
Mm,
posting like a video, or at least trying to make the effort to like, even if you don't want to like post the actual like video embedded into a tweet, you can at least post the YouTube link. It took
yeah.
me 2 minutes this morning to find the YouTube link, but the link for it on YouTube, it's already up there. But like the screenshots don't post, like that's the thing, that was my thing with screenshots, is they were like, well look, his head is down here. I'm like, yes, but if you watched it in the context of the video, his head was only down briefly so he could look at the, like that's the thing too, is he was carrying the puck. So like you have to understand that even though these are NHL players and they're really talented at what they do, and you expect them to keep their head up, yes, you also have to expect them like, hey, when they're carrying a puck, they can't like not look down at it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? To put this into
yeah.
like normal people terms, um, like normal people, aka like not athletes, because I know not everyone who listens to our show has played hockey, but um, if you're typing something on a computer, the whole thing is that you're not supposed to, the keyboard also as well is designed so that you don't have to look at the keyboard to type. But it
Mm,
doesn't mean that you don't occasionally look down at the keyboard to make sure your fingers are in the right place,
yeah.
right?
Exactly. Like just because you don't have to look down, it doesn't mean that you can't.
And it wasn't like he was looking down through the entire sequence. He was looking down briefly, momentarily,
Mm,
to just check where the puck is on his stick, which, like,
you do. That's
like, guys, please be so free. Have you ever played any sport that involves carrying an object or moving an object across a playing surface?
Apparently,
Right?
quite a few people out there haven't.
Apparently no one has. Yeah. But yeah. Um, And here's where I'm going to go with it is the initial contact. Yes. Okay. So here's where I have to differ is in the rule book. And this is where I go, okay, now we're going to start to look at the rule book because we've gotten around the head down thing. In the rule book, the terminology that is used to describe point of contact is primary, the primary point of contact, which is not the same as initial. And I think a lot of people are getting the two conflated.
Yeah.
Initial point of contact is the first point of contact. Primary is not always necessarily the first point of contact. I think probably a word that you could use in this place that doesn't sound as lawyerly as primary is main, the main point of contact. The main point of contact here was not Matthew Nice's body. That was just the initial. The initial, yes, it was like if White Cloud maintained only contact with Matthew Nice's body, we would not be discussing about this hit. We would just go heavy hit on Nice.
Yeah.
Heavy hit on Nice. There was a big hit on Nice. Someone actually finally managed to push him over. Right? And we'd be moving on, and I'd be talking about Joseph Wool standing on his head. That's like my next note. Right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be spending this long talking about a hit. But the primary contact then was that White Cloud moved up through, through, and then made primary head contact with his side of his arm, the side of his bicep, I guess. We want to get technical with it. And that is where my issue lies. Because I looked it up. This is why I look up player heights. And before you go, oh, but like, what if White Cloud is like, I don't know, 6'7"? He's not. He's 6'2". He's the same height as Nyes. They're both 6'2". Yes, maybe Nyes was positioned a little bit lower because he was bracing for impact. But like, also, when you lay a hit, you're not doing it standing straight up. You also are getting lower in your stance.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I just wish people.
It's common sense, I fear. Like I said this last week.
Yeah,
I said that it's common sense, I fear. But and like it was through the head, and I know people again will post a screenshot of the initial contact and be like, look, his feet weren't off the ground. Never does it say initial in that ruling for head contact. It never says initial in any of it. It's always primary, which is not the same as initial. Please. They can mean similar things, but it is not the same. Primary in this stance means main or majority, not the first.
Exactly.
And White Cloud then, after the initial contact, to then drive up through Matthew Nice's head and carry that contact upwards, is 4 inches off the ice. And he gets like 4 inches of air, like 4 inches of airtime up there. Like, there's his skates leaving the ice. That you guys were like, his skates didn't leave the ice. I was like, but they did. Like, not even a second later.
Literally, it's like, you know when Mitch does his stupid little jump?
Yeah.
That's how much space there was between Zach Whitecourt's skates and the ice. Like, you just can't. And it's like, there's been so many people who've been like, oh, it was fine, and it wasn't.
It wasn't, and like that's
actually break it down.
If you actually break it down and you don't just look at like a screenshot of one moment in time, you will see why, like, if this was I was considering it, if I wasn't as busy as I was right now, I'd be literally making a video where it's me with the video, which may or may not have then would get like copywritten flagged by the NHL. Probably it would have. At least maybe if I posted Twitter, they wouldn't care. But like it's
Yeah.
me, it would be me sitting there with a video going pause, like having it in super slow motion, hitting
Frame by
pause
frame.
and pause and play, going, okay, and here, yeah, Matthew Nyes has his head down. Okay, but like if we see literally the next moment, he's looking back up. And here he is looking all the way up, all the way through the hit. And here's the moment of contact, yes. But here's the primary contact we see afterwards, where it is why cloud, like, because I saw that people going, well, when you run into things, you move upwards. I'm like, yeah, but you also don't get 4 inches of air time. I understand if you, as you hit, you stand up, but you don't leave the ice.
No.
You know what I mean?
Like you just don't.
I feel crazy.
Mm. Yeah. Like I don't even know how to like word it without. I just don't know how to word it full stop. I'm just really frustrated.
Well, yeah, I'm frustrated as well because Nyes does leave the game for injury, so you have that as well. Like, I'm not asking for a suspension here. That's the furthest thing from what I'm asking. I'm not asking for a suspension, but I'm at least asking more than nothing. They
Hmm.
called it a 5-minute major, and because you can review 5-minute majors, they reviewed it, and it was no call whatsoever. So this is
Which
the
is
league saying
so
this is a clean
cheeky.
hit, which means this is the league saying, hey, if you do this now, you can't get penalized at all for if you throw this exact same hit. And I'm not saying that it's the same as the Reeves hit because it's not,
No.
but I am saying that it is like it's still not a good hit. It's probably what
No,
I'm
it is
trying to get at, right?
bad.
But you can use the two of them comparably as baselines for each other. You know what I mean? Like as a set of standards to compare to each other. I'm not. That's it. I'm not asking for a suspension. I was not asking for a suspension. I was just saying I'm asking for a I'm just asking, for a penalty, like 5-minute major or even a game misconduct. It also then goes into how the game then got really, really chippy from there. And it would
Mm.
have gone into like, okay, this is what we talked about when it was, oh, this is what we talked about before the season even started. This is what we talked about in the preseason with the Patrick Laine situation. Game
Mm.
management. Game management.
Literally.
This is the whole thing that loops back to what we talked about probably in like one of our first, not our first, but but like one of our first episodes of the season where we were talking about game management and like, yes, we don't expect the refs to make every call based on game management, but also like when you are making a call and it's borderline, maybe throw a little bit of thought into, okay, well, what could happen if we like this game already is a little bit physical. These are two notably physical teams.
Mm.
The player who is the recipient of this hit has left the game. Let's take in a little bit of game management in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. Because then it's like, if you're not gonna give a penalty for the hit that definitely should have been a penalty, like it's got to the point where it feels like they're not even considering how.
Consequences.
Yeah, they're not considering the consequences and how bad it could get because we see it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We absolutely see it all the time. Um, yeah. Again, not asking for a suspension, but at least a penalty would have been nice. Game got chippy. It's all about game management, and game got chippy from there. Like literally, then because then the Leafs go on like a 4-minute penalty kill
Mm.
because out of this, because there was a resulting scrum afterwards. in which then the whole line got in on it. And out of this scrum, like the penalties out of here, it's not like no one walked away with nothing. Out of the penalties here, Simon Benoit gets a 2-minute minor for roughing against Zach Whitecloud, which was served by Alex Steves. Oh, did we forget? He's in this game.
Yeah, Alex Steves is there.
Alex Steves was. We didn't even mention that he stayed in the line. I think it was probably implied, considering our 4 centers were
Dead.
No, it was Tavares, Holmberg, Minton, and Dewar. Like, I think someone calculated the average age and it was like 25 or something. Like, it was like something like stupidly young. And then I made a joke where it was just like, it was John Tavares and like the 20-something, the early 20-somethings.
John Tavares and the children.
John Tavares in the early 20s. That could be a band, John Tavares in the early 20-somethings. John Tavares, you're welcome.
Yeah. You know, when retirement hits, you've got to keep busy.
So start a band. But yeah, and then also, so Benoit got 2 roughing minors against Whitecloud that were served consecutively, and then Whitecloud got a 2-minute roughing against Benoit. So he did end up going in the box, but like,
not for the right reason.
Not for yeah. And then like 3 minutes later, so this penalty happened at so this whole situation happened at 7:59. At 10:22, so we're still in the second period. We're not like, we're just halfway through the second period. There is, I think it was Oliver Ekman Larson who threw a hit on Brett Howden, I think. Someone hit someone. There was a whole scrum. At one point then, John Tavares ends up on top of Alex Holtz. And it's it happens in the funniest way possible because the camera is focusing at the boards of OEL and Brett Howden going after it with each other, and then it cuts, and like Connor Timmins is in on there with like Ivan Barbashev, like, right, like everyone's in, and then the camera like swings and cuts just John Tavares on top of a guy, and I think everyone had the same reaction of, oh well, like, oh my god, like look at them go, girls are fighting. John Tavares.
No, if you could have seen my face, I was sat and I was like, "Oh, it's getting scrappy." And then when I saw when they said it was John Tavares, I was right. I'm gonna recreate dramatic recreation.
No one can see this.
I was like, "What the fuck?
John
What
Tavares.
is this amulet doing?"
John Tavares amulet gives you superpowers.
I'll take 2.
But yeah, again, this stands back to my point of like, this is what happens when there's there's no game management in terms of that sort of thing. So John Tavares, well, also as well, this is what happens when you take his like child out of the game. John Tavares is like, your guy took out my kid, my son.
That's my boy.
My boy. No, you gotta do it with like a really with like no emotion. My boy. My boy.
You hurt my son.
Sorry, I have to recall. Because you know what I'm thinking of now? Is Steve Dangle's stupid John Tavares impressions of him behind the table. Oh no, I think we've frozen again. Oh, this is...
I don't know what happened.
Hold on, I can remove you.
Okay, we're back. It froze and then...
I know.
Kicked me.
Not again. The title of this episode is just gonna be called... I was gonna think of like some other punny title I could call it. We might just have to call it Technical Difficulties.
You know what? I think that sounds about right.
I
Oh
was
my.
I was like thinking, I was like, there's so many options for what we could call this episode because there's like this game just had everything. But yeah, technical difficulties. But yeah, I will say though, yeah, Leafs managed to kill off the 4 minute penalty. We jumped around a little bit, but
Mm.
yeah, Leafs were just so good this game. Despite everything, they were just so good. Joseph Wool absolutely stood on his
Oh
head. Do you know which ones?
no.
The ones where he's sitting behind. Have you seen the ones where he's like sits behind a table and he's like, "Hello, it's
Oh
me, your
yeah.
captain, John Tavares."
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. But it's like that impression. Oh,
Oh.
well, breaking news.
What?
This is via Caps PR. Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin underwent further evaluation with team doctors, and it was confirmed that Ovechkin has a fracture to his left fibula and is anticipated to miss 6 to 4 weeks. Um, we might have to re-upload Monday's episode.
Um. Oh dear.
Yeah. Um, we might have to do some slight editing and re-upload Monday's episode because I made a lot of jokes about Wayne Gretzky, Tanyaing Alexander Ovechkin.
Uh-oh. Oh dear.
All right.
Oh, it's just started raining as well.
Well, it was raining here all day, but so yeah, that breaking news happened.
Shit.
Well, that sucks for the Caps. Four to
Yeah.
six weeks, that's at least till Christmas, maybe into the new year. And they were doing so well. And
Mm.
also, who, oh, oh, also you have to think about the fact that Ovi is like old.
Mm.
Oh, oh, brother.
Oh, brother. Yikes. Well.
Um, anyways,
Anyway.
so
Oh dear. I think we should just like stop talking about. I think we should just become a letterboxed podcast.
we may have to like totally rebrand. So if there's a team that you like don't like,
Yeah, send in
send
suggestions
it
for
in
players that you really don't like, and we'll
and
just talk about them.
we'll talk about them for an episode and curse your team.
Let's anyway. Moving on. Jordan Bennington, am I right? But
Yeah. um
well then, what fun!
um well do I have to do like a sorry, offside work chat is suggesting that I do a YouTuber apology. Aren't listening
Please,
to this song.
notes up it. Get the ukulele out.
um yeah, because I made so many I, Tanya jokes last episode. That was all before he got hurt.
Yeah,
I've let the record show that was all even before the game even started.
exactly.
Okay, it was all purely hypothetical. I did not expect that to happen. Anyways, back to the game. Joseph Wool had a great game against
It's
Vegas.
such a good game.
He stood on his head, especially in the second period where he was faced with so many high danger shots. Leafs had a
Mm,
4 minute penalty kill. And like there was not a lot of 5-on-5 after the first
mm.
half. Like there was very limited 5-on-5, but he
Like
stood on his head. He has a great.
it's
He
a
had a
good game from your girly. Like I wasn't nervous.
oh, I was.
Like I was sat and I was watching him make all these saves, and I'm like, I feel fine about this
You
now.
felt fine? I felt nervous with 17 seconds left in the game.
I was,
Do you think I have trust issues?
yeah, yeah, you do. Anyway, that's the
Not my
usual
fault.
one.
Yeah, do I have trust issues centering around the Toronto Maple Leafs? Probably, considering I was 9 in 2013 during those playoffs. Yeah. Joseph William Nylander in the third period. Was that in the third? Yes, it was, because power play goal in the third period on the Leafs' first power play as well of the game. Should I add Leafs? William Nylander power play goal to make it 2-0. I was still nervous at this point. I still thought they could lose. There was too much time left.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
it was
I was nervous about the game in general because I know it's the Leafs, but I was sat and I was like, Joseph Wool, he's got this. He's got this.
See, no, I got too many trust issues with this team.
Yeah, you do.
I was on the power play. Leafs have a good opportunity, good chances, like crazy good chances, and then the puck goes the other way, and Vegas has a shorthanded chance, and then they bump it out, and then it goes back the other way, and William Nylander scores off of. Okay, I got it. Like Marner has the puck. It's Nylander's right there with him. Marner passes it. All right. Nylander sits. He sits. He sits. He shoots, and it goes in. Like he waited out Hill until Hill bit on his little bait, and it worked. And then Willie just fired it home, and it was fantastic. But it was great. Like the way he just like sat there too, like it was almost like he lagged. But like it was so good. If you watch the replay of the goal, I want you to like Nylander doesn't take a stride from the time he crosses the blue line until he shoots the puck. Like watch the replay and watch the number of stride. Like watch Nylander's feet. He does not take a stride, because I was rewatching the goal this morning, and he does not take a stride. It was fantastic. It's gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous goal, a power play goal. And this is what I mean when I say like you can score on the power play off the rush. We saw it. Fantastic. I also want to highlight William Nylander just had a great game. He had a 2-point night. He had a goal and an assist. Because he had an assist on the Minton goal, but he had also had 6 shots on goal.
What a game.
What a game for William Nylander. Yeah. And to seal the deal, Pontus Holmberg with the empty netter I think this gets the monkey off his back a little bit in terms of, okay, I've scored. Okay, yes, it was an empty netter, but like I have you know what I mean? It's like I've got a goal, monkey off his back. He did also as well, like, okay, whatever, scored an empty netter. It was a good goal, and still in the way where like to lead up to him have the opportunity to make the shot on the empty net. He had a strong play to make sure he garnered possession away from Pietrangelo, I believe it was. If you go back and watch it, it was there was like a poke check where he got his stick in to tip away the puck, and that allowed it to like be out of the reach of Pietrangelo, so that he then could make the play to get possession of the puck. So that like it's the little things like that. There's still some things with Pontus Holmberg where like sometimes just offensive opportunities just like die on his stick, and I think you could see that when he was on a line. I think at one point he was like centering like Nylander and Tavares, and then no, it was not Nylander, not Tavares. It was Nylander and Nyes, and then Krebenkin, when Nyes left the game, moved up into that slot, and it was like, but because we did have a kid line. I didn't even talk about this when we were talking about the game at the first. We did have a kid line to start the game. I love the kid line. I'm a big fan of the kid line. I think we talked about it even last year when we had a little bit of a kid line as well, when it was like Nyes, Robertson, Holmberg. But yeah. So I love the kid line. Big fan of the kid line. We love the kid line.
We do.
Yeah.
We love kid line.
So the headline, for context, I thought it was going to be a little bit different. I thought it was going to be not Holmberg centering that line. Why did I thought Holmberg was going to be on the wing for that line, because this was
Mm,
before we lost Domi. And so I thought the line could be Robertson, Minton, Holmberg, or Holmberg,
mm,
Minton, Robertson. But it ended up
yeah.
being, because then Domi was out and we called up and Gurbenkin got called up, the line ended up being Nyes, Minton, Gurbenkin. And it was good. It was fast. It was a
It
fast,
was.
fun
It was a
line.
speedy line.
It was, and like you could see, I was like so impressed. Hats off. I think I'm gonna take this moment to say hats off to Nikita Gurbenkin. He didn't get a point in his first game, whatever. He was a menace and he was
He,
everywhere. If he was on the ice, he was everywhere.
he was. Oh, he's such a little shit. I love it.
I love it. Like he was physical. Yes. He was physical. He was back and like he had offensive chances. Like there was so many
Mm,
like really great offensive chances where you're like, "Oh, that's
yeah.
going to go in. That's going to go in. That's got to go in."
His
And then
time was good.
defensively as well, he was just really good as well. Like
Mm.
kid's great. But yeah, so Leafs end
Yeah,
up
and
finishing it off.
it's evident that like, you can see how much he just like loved playing.
Oh my, yeah, we'll talk. I have a whole note here about the post games.
Oh yeah.
So don't worry, we're gonna get to that. I'm just gonna close out the game. So close out the game, to close it out, Leafs win 3-0. Joseph Wool gets the shutout for the second time in his career. His first being 3 years ago in his first stint called up with the Leafs.
I do you know I was scrolling through like every single
And it
time
was
I
this time of year too.
about waiting about wanting Joseph Falls to get another shot. Oh my, it was like it's like Christmas.
It is like Christmas.
I was sat and I'm like, I have tweeted about this so much. And I was just oh, and then the little wiggle, little walla wiggle at the end. Oh god, he was just cheesing. I was so happy. I wish you'd have seen me. I
Oh
was like
man, yeah.
not
I was at home. I was like, oh my God, Joseph Wool. I think I started like shaking. Like my heart rate didn't go down from like halfway through the second till like
mm.
well after the game was over.
Oh yeah, I I
I
was
was
sat
like
and I was like,
vibrating, but yeah, because his first was in around this time of year. Was it today? 3 years ago?
um, I don't know.
Shutout versus Islanders. New York Islanders. It was today.
It was a year ago today. Not a year
Yeah,
ago.
3 years ago.
3 years
2021
ago.
today. So nearly almost to the day.
Oh my god.
um, but yeah, so yeah, he just had a great game too. Like he had a fantastic stellar game. So did Fraser Minton as well. Like first career goal, that's a big moment. Um, and Fraser Minton gets the belt for the game as well.
He did.
That the Leafs blueprint moment that they put out was really, really cute. But yeah, we can talk about post games. And we'll talk about Nikita Gurbenkin a little bit. Kid was so happy.
He
Uh,
was, he was just
his
like a little dog with his tail wagging.
Yeah. I need you guys to go and watch his post game. Like if you're like, I don't really have time to like sit through all the post games, which is fine. Go and watch, like you can do it on the Leafs YouTube channel. Go and watch his. He had some great moments. He obviously is struggling with his English, so he's still, trying to learn English. His English was pretty great. Like I am of the opinion that like NHL teams should go through the way of like MLB teams and provide players, though, like players who need it, provide them with a translator,
Hmm.
at least during media availabilities,
Yeah.
or like team meetings or things like that. Like it doesn't have to be always like a 24/7 like active translation
Hmm.
in the same in that aspect. but like it can at least be a like, a thing where it's like you can try, do the media availability like primarily in English or whatever. And then, if there's like a question he doesn't understand or or a word he doesn't know
Mm.
or an answer he needs help with, he can rely on someone to translate for it. Like a
Yeah.
professional, someone who's there to get, and not a teammate, right? Like, and that's just
Mm.
my opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
But he was still great. His post game was still great. I think the most notable quote, if you haven't seen this quote yet, I don't know how you've missed it. You must be like totally offline. Is he said, he was asked like, oh, was there any tip? Like, what are your thoughts on the games? Is there any tips that like the team gave you or things like that? And he went, fork check, back check, paycheck. And the entire, and like that's the way that you
Oh.
gotta be, is like the media, like media's laughing, you're laughing. Like he was like laughing before he finished his joke too. He was so proud of himself, and it was just great. Like I was having the time of his, like, oh, he was having the time of his
This is
life. And
having
Joseph Bull
fun.
even was asked about him as well, in his post game. And he said, oh, he came, I think he was just Poole said something where it was like, I think he was the first one in here this morning, came in all smiles, like so positive, excited to be here. And it was like, oh, that's so good for him too. Like he was so happy to get his NHL
Mm.
debut, and that's so huge. It's like such a big thing. Um, and it means so much for like a guy who was, you got to remember, he was drafted 135th overall as well.
Mm.
So, and he seems to really be a really talented player as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then Fraser Minton as well also like spoke about him because the two of them have been playing on the same line with the Marlies. It's been them and Alex Nylander, who've been playing on the same line. And Minton said, oh, he's again, like he just seems like a very positive, happy guy, which is great about a
Mm.
guy like we don't know too much about him. And just in the fact of like he's coming from Russia, like we know about his play, we can watch him clips of his play, but it's hard to know a lot about like him as a person, like off the ice. So it's good that
Yeah.
we're getting these insights through him, through his teammates and things like that. But
Mm.
Minton was like, yeah, like he's getting, his English is getting so much better, and like he's so fun to play with. And oh, I just love it. I love it. The vibes in the locker room right now, like even amidst all the injuries and everything, just seemed really, really high.
Yeah.
Some other post game moments I want to talk about was I'm trying to now think off the top of my head. Now I had one like just a second before with Minton, that I was thinking about, and now I've totally forgotten. Whatever. I'll think about it probably like later, halfway through the show, and be like, "Ah, that's what I wanted to talk about." Um, but um, yeah, sorry. I feel like I have one more, but I just like can't think of it. Um, there was more like quotes from today
Mm.
that I wanted to um talk about, and that was that so from today, I guess, yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, we'll talk about some stuff from today. They had a like a skills session, kind of like not really a totally formal practice, but I think some of the guys were on the ice, and then they had a media availability as well. And I think this quote from Stephen Lawrence, where he was asked on blocking 3 shots the night before, and he said, I was channeling my inner Timmy Brent there. It definitely didn't feel too good, but it's always worth it when the guys come through today. When the guys come through. If you don't know if you don't know who Tim Brent is, that is like the most like Leafs sicko mention you could have done. He was with the Leafs organization for 2 seasons, one of which he played more games with the Marlies. He played like 33 games with the Marlies and only one up with the Leafs. And then the year after, he played 71 games. But there's this one clip where it's a game against Carolina. And this is kind of like what Stephen Lawrence is talking about, is where Tim Brent blocks like it's like a 3-on-3 power play, and Tim Brent blocks like 3 shots in a row and then like has to almost like limp off the ice. They're like Jordan Stahl slap shots too.
Oh,
Yeah.
ouch.
It's like from like 2011. And that's like the most like Leaf sicko type. You know what I mean? Like where you're like
Yeah.
that's like deep cut type stuff. Like and that's how you know this guy like loves the Leafs and grew up loving the Leafs. So yeah, that was some but then also as well, there was another one that I wanted to talk about where it was like another nice quote, not nice didn't speak. Another Wool quote, yeah, where it's like Joseph Wool said, he was asked about Stephen Lawrence blocking all the shots, and he said, if a few off the same foot, I may owe him dinner or something. And then they asked Lawrence about it, and he said, Wooler said that? Oh, nice. All right. Okay, I may have to take him up on that. Wooler is great. He did a great job last night, too. We're more than happy to help him out. That's all the Mark Masters, by the way. But yeah, like some of these quotes, like the vibe, you can just tell, like, despite the fact that they have 7 forwards, we like, I'm gonna say 7 because we still don't know the status of Matthew Nyes. But the fact that they have 7 forwards out, either injured or suspended, like just out of the lineup, and the vibe, like, they're still like the vibes are still pretty high. Um, like this one, they asked Connor Timmins about if you know we talked about last episode where Wool and Nyes and Connor Timmins were all at the Bills Chiefs game. I think we mentioned that Timmins was there as well. But
Yeah.
Wool and Nyes were in like Travis Kelce jerseys, and then Timmins was there, but like in like full like Buffalo Bills blue. And Timmins was asked about it, and he said, I told them they couldn't sit with me if they were wearing those jerseys. I think they took them off after they went to the field. We got to cheer for the Bills here, which is probably like, because oh my God, where's Timmins from? Timmins from, I think, Sudbury or something. Like, he's from Ontario, but like, that is the most like Ontario hockey guy thing is like, we're all Bills fans. You're a Bills fan. Because for those who don't know, because they're not from Ontario, is like everyone from Ontario or not everyone, but like most people, if they're from Ontario and they're gonna pick an NFL team, they're going to pick the Bills because Buffalo is the closest city, and it's easy, especially if you live in Southern Ontario. It's the easiest game like stadium to get to, and I've known so many people who've driven down to Buffalo to go see a game. I had friends last year who drove down for like the New Year's game where it was like middle of a snowstorm. Um, so like people go, right? So like the Bills are a thing. And so it was really funny that he was like, oh, we're all Bills fans here. So like you play for the Leafs, you're a Bills fan now. You can't sit with Connor Timmins if you're not in Bills gear, apparently. So um, but yeah. Uh I just got like I'm like now seeing like the shoulder shimmy from Wool after the game. Where he was asked about what inspired his shoulder shimmy, and he said, "I have no idea. Barely remember. Happy." He said, "I might have to implement that for going forward. Like I might have to keep that."
Please do. It was so silly. I
Yeah.
loved it.
I will have to, okay. We try not to get like too RPFE on the podcast, but I have to just make because I made this joke earlier, and I just no offense to Mark Master, love Mark Masters, but Joseph Bull was quote unquote pretty upset seeing good friend, all right,
Okay.
good friend Matthew Nyes leave the way he did. Felt it sparked the team. Sometimes anger and those things can be used to drive you through a game. Did he use it? I was pretty pissed after it, so I tried to harness that as well as I could. Best friends.
Best friends. Just like we are. But oh god, what? Watching the post-game media first thing after I woke up this morning was like the most I have never felt so insane. I was just watching and I was like, is this real? And then I had to
Yeah.
rewatch it and I was like, yep, no, that did just happen. Also, Joseph Wall, please keep the mustache. Please.
Oh, I'm loving the mustache.
Please. We need I need to see the full mustache for
That's the thing
science.
too, right? Like I'm looking at the date, I'm like, oh, we only have like a two-ish like a weekish left, like a week and a half left of the month of November. And like if that's like what he did in 21 days, like we're not gonna see much more before November's over. Like keep the mustache. I
This is
sound
like
so
the same sort
hypocritical
of.
right now because I know Simon's listening to this and being like, you don't let me grow a mustache. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, but you're
because
not Joseph Wall. Sorry, Simon.
he's gonna listen to this and be like, but no, because he said before, he's like, I have a picture of like when I shave of me with a mustache if you want to see it to like know if it looks good. I'm like, nope, nope, we're not going there.
No. It's like
Like I already have to like talk him through how he has to get a haircut. Not has to, like he's at the stage now where like he probably should get a haircut, but it has to be a trim. He has to get a trim.
Mm.
I keep telling him it's like you have to go every 6 months and or even like every four and get a trim. She's like, no, I'm like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, stop talking about my hair on the pod. This is like the second time
No,
we've brought it up in like a
it's
month.
fun.
He's gonna be like, stop talking about my hair on the podcast.
No.
That's my Simon
Never.
impression. It does not sound at all like him.
Wow, that was such an incredible Simon impression. It's like he's here with us. I can still hear him.
Surprise! He's been here. No, he's not. It's like he's been here the whole time.
Whoa, Simon, you look different. I never knew you were blonde.
um, yeah.
But if
Leafs.
not being able to see the full Wall mustache brings me the same devastation that I felt when we never really got to see him with the beard.
Yeah. Like that's the thing too, where I'm like, oh, him and like Dewar. Well, like Dewar we've seen, but like I still think about like his sad like media day mustache. Was like if that's what you got at media day at that point, just shave it off. Just shave it off.
Just get rid, please.
It's get rid of it. Cause like okay, cause like Shane Pinto's got a good one going right now. Take like Shane Pinto's mustache and like glue it onto Joseph Wool's face. Someone who's really good with Photoshop, like someone, because I don't have the Photoshop skills for this. Someone who's really good at
No.
Photoshop. Could you do me a favor if you could take Shane Pinto's mustache, like his current one from like a couple games ago? Actually, no, there's a great video in which you can use in which he was like there for like there was a fourth grader who interviewed him. That's on like Leafs. I think it's Sens Foundations or it's the actual Sens like official Instagram. But like take that his mustache and put it onto Joseph Wool's face. I just need to see something for science. Their hair is you may have to do some adjusting on the color because I don't think their hair color quite matches. But like please Photoshop people. I'm not a Photoshop person at all. I barely can use Canva. Um I'm not great at making my own graphics for articles. So yeah. Um with that being said, I guess. Oh, looking forward for the Leafs though. On they only have one game between now and our next episode on Monday, so they play on Sunday. They don't play on Saturday in Hockey Night in Canada. So you could watch like any other team, but they don't play, which is I think this is their only Saturday in which
Mm.
they don't play outside of the Four Nations break. If I were to look at their schedule, uh, that I can pull up real quickly. No, not the roster. Schedule. Uh, yeah. So they don't play this Saturday. Oh, nope. They play that Saturday, and then they play that Saturday, and then that's during Four Nations. And then they play. Okay. So they have one more Saturday off in March. They have March 1st off. But they play a back-to-back home and away Sunday, Monday on the 2nd and the 3rd.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, now why would they do that?
What's they doing?
They don't play a Saturday, but then they play Sunday at 1 in Pittsburgh. They play the Sharks then at home at 7:30, and then they go on the little like Vegas, Colorado, Utah trip,
Oh.
where two of those games are at 10 p.m. Oh, 10 p.m. on a Wednesday in March?
How am I? I'm gonna be like in the depths of writing my diss then.
That's
How am?
midterm season.
Oh my god.
Have we mentioned we hate the Leaf schedule?
Hmm.
The Leaf schedule
I
is
don't
so
know if we
bad.
have.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. I will say it is good right now that like this is the time where like the Leafs lineup like blows up because everyone's hurt because the Leafs play 3 more games this month. They play Utah on Sunday. Um and um then they play I think it's Florida first on Wednesday and then Tampa on Saturday, and then December looks like the worst month ever because then they play Chicago on Monday. And then they get into like then they're playing a game almost every other day. And if it's not, it's there because it's there they have a back-to-back coming up, or it's after a back-to-back, or it's just before a back-to-back.
Oh boy.
Tell me why we play the Islanders, Sabres, Capitals, and Red Wings twice in the month of December.
Because they hate us.
Who decided this? Who made this? This is awful. We had this though when this schedule was announced. I think we've had the same conversation where we looked at the schedule and we went, this sucks.
Hmm.
And I know part of it is it's hard, especially because the Leafs share their arena with the Raptors. And like the Raptors right now are on a home stretch. But like, really? Really? Really?
Really?
Um,
I'm sure
but
it's
yeah,
even
so
worse. Like I know, like it sounds like a bad schedule. It's so much worse when you actually look at it laid out. It's fucking criminal. How am I supposed to exist?
yeah. Um, anyways, I think though that probably on Sunday we probably will see Stoltz because like it seems now that the Leafs have gotten into a routine of, or at least Craig Berube trusts both his goalies enough where he can be like, all right, we'll just alternate.
Mm,
You go. And I think that it seems like they've got into that pattern. I may be like totally proven wrong. Who knows? But like it seems like it is a you go, I go.
yeah, it does. Oh, gonna
Um,
sneeze.
well, Marcie sneezed, I also will point out today that the Leafs took their annual trip to Sick Kids Hospital, which they do once a year, and they visit with the kids and they do arts and crafts and they do autographs and take pictures, and it's always lovely. And we talk about Sick Kids. We talked about Sick Kids last year on the show during
Mm,
going into the month of December, where we were linking their donations page. We will be doing the same thing, like when that all gets announced and everything, we will be doing the same thing where we will be putting that link in the show notes of every show for the month of December. You know, I talked about it on the podcast last year about how much Sick Kids have meant to me personally, as well as also to family, friends, and other people in my life. And so I really love what the Leafs do in terms of in terms of Sick Kids, in terms of um not helping, yes, but also just in terms of community engagement, and also just it means so much to the kids as well who are probably who are all going through just awful things to brighten their day, and for them to get to meet maybe heroes of them or just people they look up to in a way. So yeah, the pictures also turned out great.
Yeah, they're so cute.
They made Bobby McMahon whip a nay again.
Brilliant.
He's never gonna live that one down.
The group chat's flaming him already. I just know.
But yeah, they decorated mini sticks. It looked like by what it looks like from the pictures, which is really cute. They all had like sparkles and gems and things like that, rhinestones. So that was really fun. Yeah. I feel like we always have to highlight those sorts of things because it really does show like the impact that not just the Leafs, but also as well like other NHL teams have on the communities that they're in. And
Yeah.
I know some people are a little bit not villainizing pro sports, but like, but there is truly such a huge positive impact that teams have in their communities. And so I just wanted to highlight this one that is close and dear to my heart as well. Yeah. So now let's talk about the downfall of the Boston Bruins.
Oh boy. Have we prayed for this?
Yeah, so this all leads back into what happened on Tuesday. On Tuesday, the Boston Bruins fired head coach Jim Montgomery 20 games into the season. The Boston Bruins this season have an 8-9-3 record, which like is bad, but also like is not the worst one, even in their division.
But it's still bad.
Yeah, it's still not great. Like if you know, considering some of the players that are on that lineup, but also like Jim Montgomery is a Jack Adams winner, and is like a good coach, and which is also, you know, helpful to know that he'll land on his feet somewhere for sure. Like I'm sure there's probably teams lining up to hire him, or at least who are, if not right now or in the next month or so, at least maybe later on in the season where if more coaches get fired, or in the off season if there's teams looking to make a change, Pittsburgh. Not to name names, but Kyle Dubas, I know he's a guy coming from the Boston Bruins, but like should look into it. Yeah, so but in the meantime, Joe Sacco, Leafs legend, he was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs and played for them for a couple of seasons, like came up through their system, was named interim head coach in the meantime. The Boston Bruins will still conduct a search for a new head coach, and are not committing to Joe Sacco long term, or at least in a non-interim basis. Is this also, as well as just another stat that I want to throw, like I don't want to get too into the advanced stats, but I did notice this when I was looking at the standings today, writing out these show notes, that the Boston Bruins have the second worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference and the third worst in the NHL with -21. They're in the NHL, like league-wide, they are only better than the San Jose Sharks, who are at -26, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are at -24. And those are like bottom two teams in the league.
Ouch.
They like their record doesn't reflect that goal differential. Obviously, like the Boston Bruins are not bottom of the Atlantic, they're fourth, but it is still not good. And we saw, you know, at least you can still make the playoffs with a negative goal differential. We saw Washington, but like it does show like when they're losing badly.
Yeah.
Anyways, downfall of the Boston Bruins. This has been a day
Yippee!
I've been praying for since I was 9 years old. So literally have been praying for this day since 2013. I could probably name the exact date if I really thought about it, but what a moment. I don't want to get like too happy about it because there are like we do have quite a few writers for Offside, our colleagues who are Boston Bruins fans. So I don't want to be too uppity in their face about it. But like I will say like
Teehee.
Bruins fans haven't had to be bad. Like they've been like mid, but they've always been like playoff contenders. They haven't been bad.
Mm.
And it's really funny watching them, a lot of them experience like bad for the first time in like what they can remember.
Mm.
And for Boston, I know we spent last episode talking a little bit about Pittsburgh, but like Boston for me is a team that like did never really address like thought like they could get away with cheating on addressing what they were losing when like Bergeron retired, when Krejci retired, and like all these things, and they thought, oh yeah, we've addressed these issues, but like they didn't do it up to the same
Mm.
par, and therefore like um therefore now they're realizing, oh wait a minute, we didn't do that right, we didn't replace Bergeron properly.
Yeah.
That's a Selke at least nominee. I think he's a Selke winner as well. Like, it's a
Mm.
huge defensive forward of a guy who can like score goals. I'm well aware of the fact that he can score goals. I've seen him score goals on the Leafs many times. Too many times.
Far too many times.
Oh, way too many times. Not to bring up 2013 again, but dude ruined my no. Dude's the reason I no.
Well.
Well, no, we're not gonna unpack that box. But yeah, I just like their defense isn't that great. It's literally Charlie McAvoy in a dream.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel bad for him. But yeah, it's gone to the point where like um James Myrtle put out in the Athletic like trade targets for like potential trade targets for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Trent Frederick was like number 2 after Yanni Gourde,
Please, please,
which
please,
like
please.
we're just gonna be like, let's give Joseph Wool another friend in Trent Frederick.
Yeah. What if we just created a whole new team of just Joseph Wool and his friends?
Joseph Wool and Friends. That'd be a great TV show.
Oh my god. Please.
Just Joseph Wool and Friends. But yeah, I just like that's the thing that I think now like a lot of Boston fans are realizing is like they had such a great goaltending tandem last season
Mm.
in Allmark and Swayman. Like that was best tandem in the league by far. You
And then they
couldn't
blew
like
that up.
and then they separate blew it up, but in doing so like that the goaltending was so good that people weren't realizing how bad the defense was. And now
Mm.
that like I'm not saying, oh, like by blowing them up, you like made them worse because you made them sad or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like they they are now like it's not they don't have 2 starting goalies as their tandem. Either team, like both Ottawa Senators and Boston Bruins. Like you have Jonas Corposalo and Anton Forsberg. Those guys are not starting goaltenders, but you do
Mm.
have but you still do have like good talented starters. You just like they now are now having to carry more workload, which
Yeah.
I'm not saying they can't manage. They can manage. It's just an adjustment, but you also need to make sure that like then the defense that's in front of them is good because you're still
Yeah.
going to leave them out to dry if you're playing them 60 games, 60, 70 games. 60 probably 60 closer to 60, 65, but if you're playing them 65 games, um that you then have the defense so that they're not having to play the best game of their life every single night. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you still like yes, you would like your goaltender to win you the game or like allow you to have it. But the whole thing is the goaltender needs to give you a chance to allow you to win the game. But like if you're not helping your goalie with your defense, you're screwing him over.
Yeah. And then you'll just have a very sad goalie, which no one wants to see.
Yeah. So but I will that's my thoughts is like I think people definitely underestimate. They were like, "Oh my God, Boston's so good because they've like such great defense." I'm like, "No, Boston was so good because they had such great goaltending."
Mm.
And now look at where we are, where the defense is fairly simple. Like they didn't lose, like at least on their blue line, they didn't lose the same amount of like high caliber pieces as they did up
Mm.
on their top line, and they just didn't replace things the right way with Lindholm and it just and you lose DeBrusk and all these things that all kind of compounded into the fact of like, hey, Don Sweeney isn't that great at his job. Him and Cam Neely, like, they're not putting together a team that can win. And firing the coach is the canary in the coal mine for a team that
Mm.
maybe struggles, or at least firing your coach this early on in the season. Now, we have seen turnarounds. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say because Edmonton Oilers fired their coach this early into the season because we talked about it on one of the first episodes of the show was Chris Knobloch getting hired. How we've come full circle, eh?
Oh yeah.
Coaches get fired in November all the time. And yes, the Edmonton Oilers were able to turn their season around into Stanley Cup final appearance. But also, like, even then, the Edmonton Oilers were better on paper than the Boston Bruins are. And like, okay, you could be like, well, the Boston Bruins have like Marchand, they have Pastrnak. Marchand's getting old. And you have only one Pastrnak. Edmonton Oilers had at least two. And they had a
Yeah.
freak season from Zach Hyman where he was then turned around and scored 50 goals. And you had your defense was pretty good. And so you had all these things compounding where it was like on paper, the Edmonton Oilers were still like a pretty good hockey team. The Boston
Mm.
Bruins, I don't know if on paper, like you can look at the names and be like, yeah, but like it's not to the same caliber. So I don't know if they're going to be able to turn this around into a playoff appearance. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how far if they continue to fall, if they continue to struggle. I believe they play tonight um, against a team. They play tonight against Utah at home. That game is on Sportsnet Ontario for all you Ontario-based sickos who want to watch it. I don't know which Leaf fans are like sickos enough to want to watch that, but I will not be tuning into that. I have
Better things to do.
yeah, I have the Sens game to watch. Also a paper to write. Um
Mm.
yeah, other things to talk about. Oh, yes. PWHL training scrimmages, like their training camps are underway. They have mini
Mm.
camps in Montreal and Toronto where scrimmages have been taking place today and yesterday. Um, so there's no way to watch those. Like, there's no way to watch a broadcast of those. So you'd have to, but I do know that on the PWHL website, you can look at live stats for those games rolling in. And also as well, there are various members of the media at both in Toronto and Montreal live tweeting their coverage as well from those games. I know Ottawa
Mm.
won theirs today against the Boston Fleet, so that's fun. They won like 6-1, which is like good for Ottawa. I see them twice in the span of a week. So am I allowed to be like totally unbiased when I go into those games and watch Ottawa and Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal play? And I go, I'm just cheering for Team Canada.
Nah, you'll be fine.
If Mary-Philippe Poulin scores, I will be celebrating. It's Mary, like it's hard to cheer against Mary-Philippe Poulin. We've had this conversation
Oh,
so many times. It's Mary-Philippe Poulin. Some other injury news as well. Freddie Anderson to undergo a knee procedure that'll keep him out 8 weeks. This is already after he's missed considerable amount of time. If you ask my fantasy team,
yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, I picked up Joey Decord in our league because I had
I
a
did.
singular healthy goalie.
That's rough.
I will say though, Thatcher Demko is starting to practice more with the Canucks, so I'm really excited for when he comes back
Yes.
because I think It'll be a solid for me. Yeah. Yeah, I've Shesterkin. Yeah, because my goalies when I started the season were Shesterkin, Demko, and Anderson. I thought, oh, okay, I can ride Anderson and Shesterkin until Demko comes back healthy, and then I can rotate through the three of them. So now I have four goalies, but I have Anderson on IR, which is a good thing I put him on IR because
Mm. You turn it into me.
no,
Like,
I wanted three goalies because I could get three like good ones, and then two of them decided to be hurt for long term. So
mm. I will say
yeah.
that having Joseph Wall last night,
Oh, how many points did you rake in?
13.2. I got
13.2.
13.
Who are you against this week?
Uh, I am against Pontus Goldberg and Co.
I see.
Yeah, but it was a brilliant day for me and my goalies last night.
I can imagine. Yeah, because who's your other goalie?
Uh, Depends on the league, but I have
Well,
Lucan.
in the one that we're both in.
In the one we're both in, I've got Flurry, Wall, Stolas.
Oh, so you're riding
I'm having
right
a
now.
brilliant
You're
time.
riding because we didn't even talk about like the Leafs goalie save percentage. What Stolarz has like a 938,
Mm,
Wool or like a 930, and Wool has a 922.
yeah, oh my God, they're insane. But then no, in the league I've got with some of my friends last night, goalie wise, I raked in a grand total of 24.8 points just from my goalies, which was incredible. Felt like Christmas. I slid. But
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah. Oh no, so Stolarz has a 927. Wool has a 922.
oh, I love our goalies, man. I love them.
And the goals against average is a 218 for Stolarz and a 200 for Wool.
Oh, go on, Joseph.
I love when we have. Oh, I don't even want to say it because we've cursed
No,
our team.
we
So
can't.
we've
We must be quiet.
not gonna say anymore. I think we have a long enough episode here. Hopefully, you know,
Mm.
I'll have to do some editing work on this one, so I don't know how late it's gonna go up. But with that being said, I think we'll end it here, unless you have anything else you want to add. Oh, wait. Um, hold on, because there was still more news from Tuesday. We're still working through Tuesday. Um, we never talked. Oh my God, we never talked about it. St. Louis Blues put Kasperi Kapanen on waivers, and he was claimed by the Edmonton Oilers. That was Tuesday as well.
I have lived 3 lifetimes since Tuesday. Oh my God.
I feel like I've lived like through so many lives since Tuesday.
So many.
So many lives. But yeah, yeah, I just like the jokes for like former Leafs ending up on the Edmonton Oilers, like that, those they write themselves. Also, as well,
Mm.
FYI, because someone pointed out on the right side now, right side of their lineup, the not Leafs, the Freudian slip there, eh? The Oilers have Zach Hyman, Connor Brown, and Kasperi Kapanen.
Why? What did we do to deserve this?
And Calvin Pickard also as well spent time with Toronto in 2016.
I'm not strong enough for this. Because of course. Why not? Sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Indeed.
I have nothing to add on that except for like that happened and I feel like as a Leafs podcast we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I just because the amount of jokes, I don't even know if people were being actually serious about it, but the amount of people I saw who were like, "Oh, like Casper Kapanen on waivers. Hey Toronto, bring him back. Like get a friend for William Nylander." I'm like, guys, he wasn't good. Like we have to remember this is Casper Kapanen. Casper Kapanen.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, also as well that happened on Tuesday. JT Miller announced that through the via the Vancouver Canucks that he will take an indefinite leave of absence from the team and from playing for personal reasons. Didn't go into details, and we're not going to ask for the details. I wish him all the best. Um, takes all the time he needs, comes back ready to compete.
Yeah.
That's all we have to say. That also was Tuesday news. There was so much news on Tuesday.
There's so much news on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, on that note, so much news. On that note, yeah, if we mentioned a player in particular in this episode, make sure to keep them in your thoughts and prayers because apparently we
We are
curse them.
cursed.
We are cursed. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Monday with another episode to discuss the Leafs taking on Utah on Sunday.
Yay.
The irony in that is not lost on me. I laughed a little bit. I laughed a whole lot. Um, yeah, we are affiliated with Offside News. If you would like to follow Offside News, it is Offside News Co. on all social platforms. You can also read all the articles, including the ones written by yours truly. I got a Sens recap coming up in like a week. You can go read that over at offsidenewsco.com. There was a new episode of their podcast, 5 Minutes for Yapping, that just went up this week. That is hilarious to listen to, and you will laugh out loud. I did myself, just saying. That you can go listen to as well. Speak of the devil, there was an article that just went up right now.
Fun.
I just got the notification for it. Um, but yeah, you can yeah, I don't know where you. Oh, also as well. Oh, you can follow the show, so you never miss another episode. I'm sorry, I've had so much caffeine and so little sleep in the past like 3 days.
Oh.
But you can follow the show on Twitter and Blue Sky at From the Fourth Line. That's fourth with the number 4 TH. You can also follow both of us if you miss us in between episodes because we're hilarious on Twitter and Blue Sky. Although I'm not on Blue Sky very much. I just haven't mastered the cross-platform like posting.
Yeah, no,
I struggle.
I'm not gonna lie. I made an account on Blue Sky, so I'd just be able to save my username in case.
Yeah. But we're also there. You can follow us there. Marcie's there at 60 Leafs at both places. I am myself Pear B1 on Twitter and Pear B on Blue Sky because yeah.
Let's be
Um
special.
I just didn't want the one in my username. Sue me. Um with that being said, you can also listen to the show wherever you get your podcast. Yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Monday with another episode. Hopefully one with less technical difficulties than this one and less
Yeah.
cursed players? Question mark?
Fingers crossed.
Really fingers crossed. All right. Bye. Bye
Bye.
guys. Go Leafs go.
Go Leafs, go.